Hey there! Welcome back to Three Ball Walk. Julio, Eddie, Bob, back for another week.
Yep.
A lot of things happening. By the way, we tape this every Wednesday afternoon. So basically, the extra inning wild card American League game has been played last night, and the Mets tackle the Giants tonight. So we have info on one we'll talk about, and pregame kind of on the other.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the game last night?
I only got to watch the end of it because I have a late night Tuesday night working. So I got home in time to watch 8th, 9th. I found myself in a quandary because I had picked the Blue Jays to win, and then here comes Darren O'Day, Gator friend, personal guy that I know. I did some work with coming in the game, and I'm like, well, now I don't want him to win. Heck, I kind of want Baltimore to win it now when O'Day's in there. So then O'Day got taken out, and then I'm like, okay, now my pick can go true too because I don't really care other than O'Day. And then I love the reaction from the Baltimore catcher when the ball was hit. He just turned around and walked off. He never even saw where it landed, but it was clear it was not landing anywhere good if you were an Orioles fan. That was a bomb, a no doubt bomb. But Bob had some thoughts about the managing stuff. Well, he said it was a horrible game.
I was disappointed. I mean, Julio and I talked about it before. Buck Showalter, let's bring this pitcher in. And I don't like all the situational. I mean, you've got a guy who's doing well like O'Day was. Why don't you stay with him?
Well, O'Day had pitched 2 innings. And
O'Day threw 2 innings,
and that's enough. As far as he goes.
Right.
But I'm just...
If in an example, though, I mean, you've got a guy who's doing well for you. And I like baseball. I like all the strategy. But I think when you overmanage...
And when you start thinking about bringing in starters in those situations.
So the guy was a starter because
Jimenez.
Truthfully, I had it on
Ubaldo Jimenez.
I had it on muted, so I don't even know who the announcers were because my wife.
Was Ubaldo Jimenez, and brings in. The guy gets one out in the inning and goes out and pulls him to bring in another guy, and eventually, and I know in college baseball or even youth baseball and whatever, it's a little different because you don't have the athletes these pitchers are.
Right.
But the Marlins this year, not to, yeah, you bring in a reliever and he does the job, and an inning later you bring in another and he does. Eventually, one of them is just not going to have is not going to be on.
Yeah. Well, the thing for me in that position, I don't really have a problem with him bringing him in. I have a problem after you give up 2
Did you
ropes.
see the 2 ropes that got hit?
Yeah, and on 2 straight pitches, and then you call a fastball on his 3rd pitch, on the first pitch, he's throwing
to Edwin Encarnacion.
Yeah, I would rather walk that dude and take a chance for a ground ball double play.
But here's the other part that I think yes, it's amazing the offense. I mean, here we are, runs per game. Well, Baltimore right about middle of the pack, 12th in the league. But if you look at how many of those runs were produced by home runs, they far and away had the most runs accounted by home runs. And
they have the league leader for the last 4 years has been a Baltimore Oriole.
Yep.
First team since like the 50s with the Pirates, I think.
Yeah, the Pirates
back then. And what's amazing is they've had the league leader 4 years in a row, and it's been 3 different guys.
Yeah, only one guy twice.
Chris Davis, then
I don't know
Nelson Cruz,
and then
Davis again, and now Trumbo. And so, but here was the interesting thing, which I saw, is to show you how they manufacture runs or how they don't manufacture runs. Since triple became a stat in 1886, no team has ever had fewer than the 6 that the Orioles had this year. I'm not saying their leader had 6.
The whole team.
The whole team had 6 triples the entire year. No one has ever had that few.
But I think part of that though, Julio, is the day of the speed guy is passing in baseball, if not already passed.
No, but you still.
If you're not a home run hitter, I mean, even when you're second baseman, you're evaluating your second baseman by how many home runs they hit, whether they had a good year or not. Then now suddenly that used to be the speed guy, that in center field.
Right, but you look at the second baseman, talking D. Gordon. Here we go again.
D. Gordon is the outlier to the normal second baseman.
But you still have a leadoff guy or some guy stealing bases or something.
Which team other than the Kansas City?
Look at stolen base. How many people stole 20 or more bases this year?
I don't know how many.
I don't know.
I would get. Well, we can find out at the break. Not sure how many.
Okay, do you know how many the Orioles stole?
0 probably because they don't steal bases.
They stole 19. They had the fewest triples and the second fewest number of stolen bases.
And probably half of those stolen bases were back into double steals.
Right.
But in the stolen base, don't you think that's a management philosophy, though?
Well, that's what we're going to get into.
It's a home run philosophy. If you build your teams around 3-run homers,
Right, which you shouldn't do.
which is what most teams are doing in MLB these days, except for Kansas City.
But I'll tell you what, the old adage of good pitching will beat good offense every time, good pitching will beat home run hitters even more than just good offense, because at least with good offense you can get a hit, steal a base here and there, and you might be able to.
All
but
right,
if you're living and dying by home
All right,
runs,
okay,
it is
okay.
easier for good pitching to stop it.
How did Toronto score all their runs last night?
No, the second run did not. They had an RBI single.
Oh, so they got one run.
They
that
got a
wasn't
solo homer from Batista.
Yeah.
Yep.
The one run.
And then they got a 3-run
three-run
job.
homer.
And how did Baltimore score their runs?
That's how they did it.
Home runs.
Yeah.
The
so
2-run
runs.
homer by Trumbo.
Right. So, out of all the runs scored last night in the wild card game, how many were scored by the traditional get them on, get them over, get them in model?
One.
And
But
how many was scored by
but
the
that's-
get them
that's-
on and walk
Right,
them in when
but
you hit it
that's-
over the fence?
But that's
how many?
That's American League
How
Baseball.
many of them?
You're just counting on superficial,
How many?
designated hitter.
You're not
and
answering the
playing.
question. What is? Am I not speaking English? How many scored?
It doesn't matter. It's not real baseball.
It
it's
is
the
real
American
baseball.
League. It's the American
It's the
League.
American League.
Okay, so who's won the World Series?
We'll see what happens tonight.
Who won the World Series last year?
It wasn't the Giants. They win it this year. It's
That's
an even
right.
year. Last year the Royals did.
An American League team.
That played real baseball in
But
a
it's
way,
not real
with the exception
baseball.
of the designated hitter.
It's not real baseball.
But at
is what he
least
said.
they
Come on.
had defense.
All right,
and they-
managers. You were talking about managers.
No, I want to know about the same thing. So all of a sudden, you only scored 2 runs on the Trumbo
Home run.
2-run homer, and you don't. Whose fault is that? Is that the hitting coach's fault? Is that the manager's
I know where
fault?
we're going with it.
Oh, without a doubt.
You got your Marlins hat
So
on.
I know, yeah. So I know where we're going, but I
The
would
Jose.
say I don't think it's the hitting coach's fault that the guy doesn't hit a home run or doesn't hit a single or double triple. The hitting coach can't go up and hit the ball for the guy.
The young Marlins come out, and very young team, and they come out, and Barry Bonds gets fired because there they are, number 27 in 4 runs a game. Okay, a run and a half less than the leader. Okay,
A run and a half. That's all.
Yeah.
So,
A game.
So 5.5 is the average, and
5.5 is the leaders. The Red Sox scored 5.5.
they scored 5.5 a game,
On average.
and that's the leader.
That's the leader.
All right, and they're in the American League.
Right.
And what's the national?
Number 2 is the Cubs. Number 3,
right, so
number 2 is Colorado. Number 3 is the Cubs.
All right, so Colorado has got how many?
5.22.
5.22, so 1.2 if you go league to league. And
No,
then
but that's
they're playing in
still
Colorado.
100. But if you look over the course of the
It's
that's
162.
162. 1.5 is
Yeah, but how
200
many
runs
games
less.
did Mike Stanton miss?
He missed a lot.
missed
Oh,
3
I'm
or
sorry,
4.
Yeah.
Giancarlo.
Giancarlo, right? We knew.
Oh no, and Ozuna. I mean,
I can speak
and
both sides.
Suzuki played so much.
And how-
Ichiro played so much
Yeah.
at the beginning that his batting average
Dropped.
And
dropped
how
at the
many,
end, which they
how many
they had
games
to
did
use.
Yelich miss?
Yelich missed quite a few. Ozuna missed quite a few. D. Gordon, who led the
And
league in
Bohr-
hitting last
Bohr.
year.
And how many runs scored?
Bohr missed a bunch of games.
D. Gordon not being in that lineup,
80
All right.
games.
he led the league in hitting, stolen bases, and runs scored last year.
And so if
you
he
take
score-
that out.
if he scores 50 runs, now you're up maybe almost a full
Sure.
run.
Yeah.
A half run.
But you got those young guys, and they were hitting. I mean, they were hitting, and they don't score. And what's proof of it? Check out hits per game. Who's number 5?
the Marlins. So,
They were one of 5 teams in baseball to get more than 9 hits a game.
but they're only scoring 4 runs.
Whose fault is that?
Well, they're not hitting home runs.
Is that the hitting coach's fault because they're not scoring runs?
They're not hitting
That-
home runs.
My feeling is, and I think you know this if you watch the show, I've said this before, I am not a apologist for Barry Bonds as a player. I thought Barry Bonds, whatever, that's a whole other show. But as a hitting coach, I thought Barry Bonds did a pretty good job. If you look at the Marlins bullpen, when you have Rodney, Ramos, Dunn, Phelps, and I can't remember the other guy I'm thinking of, they blew over 25 games out of the bullpen. Blow saves. Is that Barry Bonds' fault? Why is it Juan Nieves getting fired? I mean, he's the pitching coach. He should be the one getting canned. Barry Bonds did a pretty good job.
I thought Barry did a great job.
I did.
On the field, the product on the field obviously is an improvement over last year in terms of hitting.
Sure.
In terms of run, it would be interesting. Is it an improvement over runs scored from last year, or is it down?
I didn't know this.
I'll tell you exactly.
But I know this. I know this.
Runs scored. Oh, they were last. Hold on. Runs scored 4.07. Last year 3.78. So they scored a quarter run more a game.
Right. So they're up. So basically, they scored 40 more runs this year, basically than they did
last year without D. Gordon.
Right. Without D. Gordon
and
all those other things. So the question then becomes, why was Bonds fired?
That's the interesting part. I want to know.
Well, I'm not an investigative journalist.
Well,
you have the inside track.
Fourth and batting. Here's the interesting thing.
So we would all agree that he didn't get fired because of the on-field stuff.
I wouldn't think so.
Here's your home run stat, okay? And I never even knew this existed. Team hits per run. The Cubs get a run for every 1.74 hits.
That means you're hitting a bunch of bombs.
Okay? The Orioles, actually, about 1.9.
Yeah.
Who's last?
The Marlins, I would guess. Bunch of punching Judy single hitters.
Which is at the fault of the hitting coach? You're hitting. You finished third in the league, fourth in the league in hitting. You're just not generating. I think the manager has a lot to do with that.
Well, how does the manager have anything to do with that?
Because he's the one that puts on the bunt. He's the one that squeezes the guy over. He's the guy that I really do. I think you send a guy from third. I mean,
how many?
A manager
and not having your power hitters in the
Gordon,
exactly.
Giancarlo not in there.
Yeah,
Bohr and
I mean, he would definitely jack up some of those stats.
Because Yelich had his best home run year ever.
Here's one question though. If I'm the manager, I can't not. Well, I guess I can if I put on a hit and run every time I get a guy on first base and I'm hitting in double plays. You know, I've got a hit and 2 outs, a hit and 2 outs, a hit and 2 outs. And it seemed like every game that I watched for the Marlins, which I didn't watch every game, but every game I watched, there was a lot of hit, ground ball, double play.
It seems that way.
Hit, ground ball, double play. Hit, ground ball, double play. Which that means you got a lot of hits and a lot of outs.
Yeah.
Number 28, almost at the very bottom at 7.27 a game.
Left on base. So they're leaving a bunch of people on.
They left. Only 2 teams left more on base.
So they got a bunch of hits. They didn't get them in.
Or they did very poorly two out hitting.
Yeah.
2 out hitting, I do put on the hitting coach.
2 out hits wins games. Yes. I don't put that on the hitting coach. The hitting coach can't make. Yeah, a hitting coach can't make you go up there with 2 outs and get a hit. You know, some guys are good clutch hitters, and some guys hit the ball hard and it hits right.
That could be Barry. We were going to have him live here on.
Let me check.
Is it Barry?
Let me check. You guys continue.
Because Barry, we were going to kind of interview him, see how he feels. Because is Barry looking to move back to the West Coast, establish himself as
can't do it
as a batting coach?
Okay, all right.
And now,
next time. All right, thanks. Bye bye.
You know, and that's the only thing I could think of is.
No, wasn't Barry, but his agent called and said he couldn't come on. We didn't have enough money. We couldn't pay him.
That's 2 weeks in a row.
He doesn't. Well, you know, he's out of a job, so he does need a few money.
Well, that was the whole point. Is Barry now established where it costs a little bit more money to get him, and he wants to go back to the West Coast. And it would not shock me if all of a sudden he's the Giants hitting coach. Now he opened the door.
What about being manager?
Not yet.
What if the case? And I'm just speculating because I don't know anything anybody else doesn't know. What if he was fired because he was undercutting the manager in the clubhouse?
And my feeling was there must have been a personality.
See, I think there's something there, and I think there's another story because and we just showed it. I don't think he did. I actually think he did an exceptional job. I don't think he did a bad job as a head coach.
I think he did a really good job.
No, I didn't either. Well, we're almost out of time, so we'll come back in the second half. We'll talk about the playoffs that are coming, and we'll talk about preview the National League game for tonight and the series that we know about already in the American League. So if you get a chance, you see Barry Bonds out in South Beach tonight, you know, buy him a beer or something and tell him it's okay. He'll find another job. I'm sure he's okay.
He'll be all right.
And if you see him in the Mission District, on the other bay across on the other side, then we know what's happening.
We got it. So
Play ball.
play ball.